Okay, so you should have had time to work on 4-4 and hopefully get a good portion of that done, if not the whole thing done. The second half of our lesson today, which also happens to round out our unit, is on triangle inequalities. So what this is going to be talking about is how we can use triangles, or how the different inequalities that appear within a triangle. So first we have something called the triangle inequality theorem. And so what the triangle inequality theorem says, I'm going to call the sides A, B, and C. The triangle inequality theorem says the sum of any two sides has to be greater than the third. So in terms of our picture, it would mean in order for this to be a triangle that works, we would have to add up the numbers for A and B, and it would have to be a greater sum than C. We also would have to add together B and C to make sure that sum is greater than A. And lastly, we would want to add together C plus A to make sure that sum is greater than B. If all of these are true, then you have side lengths that can make a triangle. So what I want to look at real quick is some numbers to test, are we going to have a triangle? So with our first example, if I give you the sides 8, 17, and 24, and I want to know, will those three side lengths even connect in a way that can make a triangle? So I'm going to do exactly what I have here. I'm going to take two sides, 8 plus 17, is that greater than 24? So what's 8 plus 17? So you can either add or do it mental math. Is 25 greater than 24? Yes. So we know that we're going to have a triangle. And really we only need to do, this is kind of the shortcut, is check the two smallest sides to see if they add to a number larger than the third. Okay, so when you think about it, if we were to try the next one, 17 and 24, well, both of those are already greater than 8, so we know that their sum is greater than 8. And same thing with 8 plus 24. 24 is already bigger than 17. So the other ones, when we try the other two sides of the largest angle, or the largest side with one of the smaller or middle sides, it's already bigger than the other one, so we know that no matter what we add to it, it's still going to be bigger. So really we're only going to check the two smallest sides to see if they add to greater than the third. So if we try another one, so number 2 here, 3, 3, and 7. So we're just going to look at the two smaller sides. 3 plus 3, is that bigger than 7? No, because 6 is not greater than 7. So those three side lengths, no matter how you try to work it, they will never connect in a triangle. And let's see, next one, 11, 12, and 24. So here again, we're going to find the smallest two sides, so 11 and 24. or sorry, 11 and 12. 11 plus 12, is that bigger than 24? So here we'll get 23, is that bigger than 24? No, so this is also not. And one of the things you want to be careful about is it has to be bigger. It can't even be equal. So if we were to say, do one of these and get, yeah, let's throw a fourth one in here real quick so I can show you. If I were to do 5, 5, and 10, if we were to take the two smaller sides, 5 plus 5, is that bigger than 10? Well, think about it. We have to be bigger, not the same. So this would also be a no. And it's really common that we forget that it can't be equal, and we sometimes accidentally say yes. Make sure that it has to be bigger than the third side in order for it to make a triangle. Okay, one of the other things we're going to do with our sides of a triangle, besides test numbers to see if they make a triangle, is we're going to be asked what is a possible third side. So what they'll do is they'll give you two sides of a triangle, and you need to find what the possible third side could be that could actually make a triangle. So when we do this, you're going to set up two inequalities. You're going to take, so let's see, if I had 14 and 22 and I didn't know what the third side was. So this would be what one might look like. It'll give you two sides, but the third one, it either won't tell you, or what I would do is I would put in an x and figure out what can x be. So using this idea that I know these two sides, if they were the smallest, I would have to be able to add them together and get a number that's bigger than whatever that third side is. I also know that I would have to be able to, so now I'm going to consider what if 22 is my largest side. That means that 14 plus x would have to be bigger than 22. So these are the two things that I have to worry about. What if x is the largest, and what if 22 is the largest? And these two scenarios are going to be what helps me figure out the possible values for my third side. I don't have to worry about the third one because I already know 14 is not the biggest. So no matter what I add, if I were to add x plus 22, of course I'm going to be bigger than 14 because 22 is already bigger than 14. So if we solve each of these, we'll get 36 is bigger than x, and we can write this backwards as x is less than 36. And then over here, when we solve, we can get x is bigger than 8. So that means if we were to write it as a long inequality, we would start with the smallest. X has to be between 8 and 36, and that would be our solution. So we're going to do a couple more of these just to practice getting the possible third side. So we can call that example 5, and we'll call this one 6. This one I'm going to give you 31 and 28. So again, I'm going to put in my x, so I know that's my third side. I'm going to start by assuming what if x is my largest? So 31 plus 28 has to add up to something bigger than x. Next I'm going to go, okay, what about 31? What if 31 is my largest? 28 plus x has to be bigger than 31. And these are the two inequalities that'll help me figure out my range of possible x values. So when I add these together over here, I'll get 59 is greater than x. And if I want to write it, I can write it as x is less than 59. That's just writing the inequality backwards. On this side, I'll subtract 28 to both sides, and when I do that, I get x is greater than 3. So I start with my smallest number, 3, x is greater than 3, which is less than 59. Whoops, not 55, 59. And that would be your range of possible x values. Okay, the last part of this lesson has to do with looking at a triangle and knowing some information and being able to make predictions about the rest of the information. So one of the last things that we have is dealing with a triangle, and if we know sides, so let's say this side is 10, 8, 7, and I'm going to call this ABC. The last part that we have on this section is a theorem that says the largest side is opposite the largest angle. So when I look at my picture here, I might be asked, what's my biggest angle? So to find the biggest angle, I'm going to start by looking for my biggest side. My biggest side here is 10. So if I go opposite of 10, angle B would be my largest angle. If I was asked for the smallest angle, I would find my smallest side and go opposite. So angle C would be my smallest. One of the things you're also going to be asked to do is to list from smallest to largest. So for something like that, we'll start with the smallest, angle C. Angle A was in the middle, and angle B was the largest. Okay, so what we're going to do with these last two examples is we're going to practice figuring out the smallest and the largest in a triangle. The only difference, so we're going to be determining the largest, I'll say longest. Here's my whiteout. The longest side. So the only difference on these ones is that we're going to have triangles that share a side. So when they share a side, we have to do a little more considering before we just jump into our theorem. So here I have two triangles with this given information. Move that up for you. I forget what number we're on. I think we're on like 6. Okay, so here's one that you're going to have. So what I would do first is figure out your missing angle and just start with one triangle. So if it helps you, cover that one up. We're going to just ignore that one for a minute here. I want to find the missing angle in this triangle. So if I add together the two that I know and subtract from 180, I'll get that this angle down here is 32. So then what I'm going to do is go from smallest to largest. So my smallest side would be AB, my middle side would be BD, and my largest side would be AD. Then I'm going to go to the next triangle. Do the same thing, find the missing angle. These add up to 100, subtract from 180, and I get that this angle is 80. I'm going to do the same thing, list them from smallest to largest. My smallest side would be DC, and then would come BC after that, with BD being my largest side. Whoops, D. So now what I'm going to look for is which one's the absolute largest side. So on this one here, BD was the biggest. But in this one, was it the biggest? So because BD was my side in both triangles, it's the biggest here, but according to this inequality, AD is even bigger. So that means AD would have to be my absolute longest side. Okay, we're going to do one more like this, because you have one of these on both your test and your quiz. Okay, so again, we're going to label it A, B, C, and D. 34, 118, 125, and 25. So again, start with one triangle at a time and find the missing angle and list them from smallest to largest. So when I add these two together and subtract from 180, I get that this is 28. So for this triangle over here, my smallest side is AB, then my next smallest would be BD, and then AD would be my largest. Then I go over to my other triangle, triangle B, add these together and subtract from 180 to get 30. So that means BD is actually going to be the smallest side here, followed by DC, with BC being the larger one. So again, I'm going to look to see where is that shared side. So my shared side is right here. So according to this, the shortest side over here is the middle side over here. So if this is the shortest on this one, and this is the middle, that would mean that AD would have to be my largest side. Because again, I know from my inequalities that AD is even bigger than BD. And you can flip this around to look for smallest side or longest side. It's just a matter of comparing the information you have and what you know has to be bigger or what you know has to be smaller. And so we'll go over a couple more of these when I get back and on your review, because these ones do sometimes cause some confusion. So just try your best. Again, look at your inequalities and try to find the side that they share. And if it's asked for the larger one, take the one that's in the middle, go larger. If they ask for the smaller one, take the one in the middle and go smaller. Okay, but read the directions to know which one you need to do. So for this assignment, you're going to be doing, it's worksheet 6, I believe. Yeah, Unit 4, worksheet 6. We had no worksheet 5. You're going to start by just listing from smallest to largest, like we were doing right up here. And then you're going to go and decide and answer some questions and decide whether or not 3 sides can make a triangle. And then lastly, you're going to find possible third lengths when you're not given one, and then you're going to end with some of these. So try your best. Again, these will be these are supposed to be finished by Friday, and then on Friday you'll have your quiz. And yes, you do have one of these on your quiz, and I just want you to try it because we have to try in order to learn it. And then after your quiz, you'll work on your review, and all of that packet will be due when I get back on Tuesday. So you guys have the rest of class to work on your 4.6 and 4.4 worksheets.